Hey guys, this is Casey Ferris. Thanks for checking out another one of my videos. Today, we're going to be looking at grading S-Log2 footage. All of that nice, flat, beautiful footage you shot on a variety of different Sony cameras, A7S, A7R, A7S2. I'm going to give you some tips that I use for doing primary corrections on this type of footage. And we're also going to take a look at the new LUT pack called Renegade from Ground Control, which is specially designed for S-Log2 footage. So it should be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's take a look at some footage. All of this is shot on S-Log2. We have a couple indoor interview type shots here. We have a soup shot, some low light shots, and an outside shot. So we're gonna take a look at grading all of these and just making them look as good as possible. The very first thing that I like to do with any type of shot is figure out if there's something that needs to be black or something that needs to be white. Because chances are, if you shoot in a log format, like S-Log2, there isn't gonna be anything that's actually showing up black. There might be some really dark gray, and it's not all the way black. We can tell that on the scopes. So that's gonna be one thing that I wanna do, is bring those parts that should be black down to black on my scopes. The other thing I'm gonna do is see if there's something that needs to be white, both in color cast as well as exposure. This sky, I happen to know, is not a overcast sky, it's a blue sky. So I'm gonna see if I can recover any of that blue in this sky and kind of see how it goes, but I don't think it should be a white sky. And I'm also gonna take a look at my saturation, which I use the vector scope for. And as you can see, it's not very saturated at all. So we're gonna come back to that and make sure this has some good saturation. First thing I'm gonna do is set my blacks, and I'm also gonna balance them. And so it's definitely gonna be under this car. So I'm gonna roll my lift down a little bit. And I'm just rolling it down to where these little spikes at the bottom kind of get close to 0. And I'm gonna increase my brightness so that it's a little easier to see. And then I'm also gonna grab my lift wheel and kind of balance these out, because I don't want quite as much blue, and just kind of set these little spikes so that they're all equal. So now they're all equal and they're a little bit closer to 0. So here's what it was before, and here's after. And that's just setting the blacks. Now we're gonna look at the whites. There's not really much that I would definitely say needs to be white. There's a couple little things like this sign maybe. A couple of these signs could be white, but they're not the main focus of the image. So I'm not gonna worry about them a lot. I'm mostly concerned about the sky here. This is a blue sky, and so what I'm gonna do is take the gain down a little bit so that we can keep some of that blue detail. Now the darkest parts of my image are set and the brightest parts are set. And so I think I'm gonna push up my gamma a little bit, just because I feel like this should be a little bit brighter. What I am gonna do is saturate this image. Just bring up the saturation quite a bit to where it starts to look natural. And that happens to be at 100. Now this isn't like the maximum saturation you could ever give to an image. This is just as much as you're allowed to put in one node. And so if you want more saturation, you just add another node like this and pump up the saturation like that, no problem. But I think that's actually gonna be okay. And one thing I'm gonna do is maybe push up the gain just a little and bring down the gamma just a little to kind of give it that nice contrast. So I might call that good for that node. And then I think I'll hit Alt-S and add another node and maybe just give it a little bit of a curve here and see if we can just improve it a little bit, give it a little bit of brightness in the lower midtones and darken those shadows a little bit with this one and brighten those highlights a little bit with this one. So just a really subtle curve. That looks pretty good. I'd say this street just looks a little bit cool to me still. And so I might take my gamma and just push it a little warm, just a tiny bit, where it kind of takes that coolness off. So that's warming it up and adding a curve with that node. So let's see the difference. Here's before and here's after. I think a pretty good primary grade. Let's take a look at a different shot. Here's a shot of my friend Sarah, also in S-Log2. And one thing to note about this shot, not only is it a person shot, but it's also a little bit brighter than you normally would probably shoot something. This was shot with a technique called exposing to the right, which means that you pretty much shoot something a little bit brighter than you normally would because you can bring it down in post, and it actually gives you a better image doing it that way with certain cameras. And with S-Log2 on the A7S, that's certainly the case. So we're gonna grade this shot the same way. We're gonna make the darkest parts of the image as dark as they should be and the brightest parts as bright as they should be. So I'm gonna start off with the lift slider and I'm gonna bring that down. And there's nothing here that really should be exact black. Maybe this shadow here could be pretty dark. but it doesn't need to be all the way black. So I might just bring that down maybe to there. And then we're gonna set the brightest parts of the image, which I mean would probably be this corner or maybe her eyes. Her eyes are right here on each of these scopes in the parade. And then this corner is right here on the scopes. And so if we made this corner white, I mean, that would look okay. I don't think that's the best decision because it's gonna really boost the contrast in this image that, you know, I don't think we really need to. So I'm gonna bring this down maybe to around 896, somewhere in there. And I'm also gonna balance it out because I'm pretty sure this is a white wall. And so I'm gonna take my gain wheel and just balance that a little bit. And so I have my brightest part and my darkest part set, and I'm gonna saturate it to where we start to really see some color. And again, that's getting around the upper part. I don't know, maybe let's try 90s, somewhere in there. That looks pretty good. And now I'm gonna adjust my midtones. So I'm gonna take my gamma wheel and just wheel down a little bit just to get some nice tone in her face. And that looks pretty good. And I think I like that. I might boost my gain up just a little more, actually. That's pretty good. And what I might do is just see what this looks like a little warmer. You see her eyes, you're actually getting a little bit of blue cast to her eyes. And I can tell because this little spike on the blue is higher than the red and the green. And so I might just try and balance to her eyes there and just see what it looks like. So I'm gonna move my gain wheel around until I can balance this little spike on each of these graphs and zoom out and see what it looks like, see the difference. It's just real subtle, but I think it looks better a little bit warm. There's also kind of some green midtones that I might take out. And I think what I'm gonna do is switch over to my primaries bars and just roll down once on my green primary bar on my gamma. That looks pretty good. I might take my gamma down just a little more. So something like that looks pretty good. And again, let's go before and after. You don't really see those huge differences when you're making the little tweaks, but before and after, it's night and day. That's pretty much how I would grade S-Log footage manually, but I also want to show you a trick to do this a little bit faster using LUTs. The LUTs that I'm going to be using are from our new Renegade pack available at groundcontrolcolor.com. And there's a ton of different looks that you can apply to your footage, and this is all designed to work awesome with footage shot with S-Log2. So here's one of our favorite shots, and you can see all the different types of looks that this can give your footage. So it's a pretty sweet pack. I'm really proud of it. And the best part is the main LUT that we're gonna be using today is actually available for free. So you go to Ground Control and you click free LUTs, and under free S-Log2 to Rec 709 LUT, you can download this LUT for free, use it on your footage to your heart's content. It's our gift to you guys for being so awesome. So we're gonna use that free LUT as well as some other LUTs from that Renegade pack. So I'm just gonna install those LUTs real quick. I'm gonna open up my project settings, and under color management, I'll go to Open LUT folder, and this is the folder where Resolve looks for LUTs. And I have a ground control folder here, and I'm gonna grab my Renegade LUTs and make a new folder, GC Renegade, and drag my LUTs in the folder and hit Update Lists. And that's gonna refresh all of the lists in Resolve so that it can see those new LUTs that I just dropped in there. I'm gonna hit save, and now I can use the Renegade LUTs to do some primary grades on my footage. So let's take a look at doing some grades with these LUTs. I'm gonna go back to my original shot here, and I'm gonna grade this using a LUT. So I'm gonna hit Alt-S, right click on my second node, go down to 3D LUT, and click GC Renegade, and that'll give me a pretty good starting point. I can just tweak this a little bit, maybe balance my shadows, and of course balance my footage. But then I have a pretty nice looking grade without having to do very much work. Here's the tweaks that I made under the LUT, and here it is with the LUT. Looks pretty nice, doesn't take much time. Here's another clip, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Add a node and add that S-Log2 Rec 709 LUT, and it looks pretty good. Probably don't even really need to tweak that. So that's graded, that's awesome. Let's go to another shot. Here's an interview shot. Let's add that same LUT. See how it looks. It's maybe a little bit crazy, so I'm gonna bring down my saturation, and maybe it's crushing those blacks a little, and do a couple little tweaks here. So here's the original, here's the LUT, and then couple tweaks under the LUT, and it looks pretty good. So those shots work great with the free LUT and just a couple little adjustments. But let's say that you have a low light shot. Check out what happens when I add this LUT. I'm gonna go to 3D LUT and go to Renegade, S-Log2 to Rec 709. and it crushes it way, way down. And the reason for that is because LUTs are designed for shots with good exposure and good white balance. So it generally just takes something that's shot well and makes it look good. Now, if you have a low light shot like this, it makes everything dark because you're starting out with a really dark shot. So you could come in and tweak this, play with it, and get a pretty good result pretty quick. But I'll show you another way to do it. I'll just reset my nodes, and I'm going to add a LUT from our Renegade pack called Nightfall. And when I add that, it doesn't crush out all of that detail. This is a special LUT that's designed for low light shots. So you can just put it on something that's a low light shot and it'll look pretty good. So let's look at this shot. This is also a low light shot, actually intended to go in sequence with this shot. And so I'm going to add that same Nightfall LUT, and there we go. It looks pretty good. Let's say we have a low light shot and we don't want this warm cast on it. We can do a couple things. We can either adjust this ourselves, or we can use a different LUT from the Renegade pack called Moonlight. So GC Renegade Moonlight, and there we have a nice blue cast on our shot. So it kind of gives it that nighttime moonlight feel. And again, there's no tweaks or anything. It's just put right on this shot, and it already looks pretty good. Now let's go back to this shot. And remember, this shot is exposed intentionally a little bit brighter, but this time I'm going to pick another one from the Renegade pack called Shades. And that's a LUT that's designed for shots that are exposed to the right. So it gives you a really good starting point with a really bright shot. And so I might just take my gamma down, and it's looking pretty good just with one tweak. So there you have it. There's a couple tips for grading footage shot with S-Log2, either doing it manually yourself or with LUTs. If you do want to check out some LUTs, head on over to groundcontrolcolor.com. They're available for download. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. If you like this, make sure to let me know by hitting like. And if you want more color grading tutorials, post-production tutorials, things of that nature, subscribe to my channel here on the YouTubes. Anyway, thanks for watching. My name's Casey Ferris. Catch you next time.